Welcome to my channel. Today's creepy story comes from a Reddit user. I was driving home from a family trip to my grandmother's house. It was around 11 p.m. and the roads were empty. The sky was filled with stars since there wasn't a single cloud. Looking up at the sky, I failed to notice the old abandoned church that I had passed many times before. It was different from the other churches in the area. The other churches were made of brick, but this one was made of wood. As I approached it, I noticed a sign that read, "Do not trespass." But being the curious person that I am, I decided to do just that. As I parked my car and got out, I noticed some graffiti on the side of the building. One of the images was a pentagram. My friends and I had just come from a comic convention where we had dressed up as Ghostbusters, and when I turned to show them the graffiti, one of them, let's call him Joe, was nowhere to be found. "Joe!" I called out. "Come see this!" He didn't respond. I looked around and saw him standing next to the pentagram, which was now illuminated by the headlights of my car. Weird, I thought. He must have walked over there on his own. I joined him and we took some pictures. One of my friends, let's call him Mark, decided to walk around the building while the rest of us stayed in the car. Mark came back a few minutes later and told us that he couldn't find an entrance. The doors and windows were either locked or boarded up. We started to make our way home when we heard what sounded like screams in the forest behind the church. We all looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Should we investigate? Was it dangerous? Sol Duirun, we decided to run. As we were making our way to my car, Mark tripped and fell. While he was scrambling to get back on his feet, Joe picked up a large rock and started to make his way towards Mark. "Joe, stop!" I yelled. "That's not funny." He picked up the pace, and as Mark looked up, he screamed. It was too late. Joe had thrown the rock, and it struck Mark squarely in the back of the head. We helped Mark up and rushed him to my car. The wound wasn't deep, thankfully, but he was bleeding profusely. As I drove Mark to the hospital, Joe kept mumbling about how he couldn't control himself and that he had to do it. At the hospital, Mark received several stitches, and we made arrangements for him to stay with one of our friends for the night. The next day, Mark insisted that we go back to the church to retrieve his camera. When we got back, we noticed that the rock that Joe had thrown was missing. In its place was a pentagram that looked eerily similar to the one that we had seen the night before. There were also strange symbols carved into the wood of the building. We didn't stick around to find out what they meant. Later that night, as I was driving Mark home, he turned to me and asked if I had remembered to put on the windshield wipers during the drive. I hadn't. Mark then pointed out that they were moving on their own. Startled, I reached over to turn them off, but they wouldn't stop moving. As we pulled into Mark's driveway, the wipers moved faster and faster until they were almost at top speed. Suddenly, they stopped. When I turned to Mark, I noticed that he wasn't looking at the wipers. His eyes were wide with terror as he stared straight ahead. I followed his gaze and saw the figure standing in the road. It was the same man who had been in the forest the night before. He was tall and thin with long, greasy hair and was wearing a black hooded robe. Mark screamed, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. All I could see was the look of pure terror on his face as he turned and ran inside his house. I sat there for a moment, unsure of what to do. Then I turned my car around and drove away. I don't know what that creature was, but I do know that I haven't been back to that church in the 6 years since. I still have nightmares about that creature sometimes, and I can still hear Mark's screams in my sleep. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to hear more creepy stories, check out my podcast. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.